What's going on, everyone? This is Eric coming at you from just outside of Hartford, Connecticut. And today we're going to have two videos come out, and they're both going to be looking at the 2021 MLB trade deadline. Now, I broke it up into two separate parts because I didn't want to have it where I had to cram a bunch of trades into this. So what I did is I have part one, which is this episode, which will focus on trades made from July 15th through the 29th. So just over 2 weeks of trades. And then the next part, part two, which will come out later in the day, will focus on solely trades that were made on the deadline date itself, July 30th. So without further ado, let's jump right in, and we'll start by looking at July 15th. And this day saw one trade, and this was between Atlanta and the Chicago Cubs. And Atlanta got outfielder Joc Pederson in exchange for a prospect. So Joc Pederson, he was acquired to help somewhat fill the gap that Atlanta had after Ronald Acuna Jr. went down with a torn ACL. He's taken over the leadoff spot, and he's taking over right field. So he's doing decently. His power numbers are solid in Atlanta. He has a pair of homers with 3 doubles over 59 plate appearances. Now, if he continues to provide solid numbers, he'll stay in Atlanta even when Acuna is back next year. He does have a mutual option for the 2022 season, so it was a good move for Atlanta to get him. Now, the Cubs, in turn, got first baseman prospect Bryce Ball. Now, he's a high-risk, high-reward type of prospect. He's a bigger batter. The problem is he's 23 and playing in high A. So some scouts do love his power upside, but he is hitting near the Mendoza line, so there's risk there. The fact that he's 23 in high A is a little bit of a concern as well. Now, on the next day, the 16th, we saw Atlanta make another trade as they acquired catcher Stephen Vogt from Arizona in exchange for a prospect. Now, Stephen Vogt, he's not the player that he was a few years ago. Now, with Travis d'Arnaud still out with an injury and the rest of Atlanta's catchers struggling to do much offensively, in fact, William Contreras has been demoted, Austin Jackson's hitting below 0.50, so he's not doing good. The team decided to take a chance on the former All-Star and Vogt. Now, he's not an All-Star anymore, but he's still a solid catcher. He does not have a long-term future in Atlanta. He'll probably hang around for maybe the rest of the season. He is 36, almost 37. Now, Arizona, in turn, got first baseman prospect Mason Byrne, and Byrne's a 25-year-old in low A. There's nothing to see here. So then, on the 22nd, we had our first of our big 5 trades. Now, I have it signified as a bigger trade because I have a star in the top right-hand corner of it, just in case you're wondering what that is. So Tampa Bay got designated hitter Nelson Cruz along with a pitcher from Minnesota in exchange for a pair of pitchers. So Nelson Cruz just continues to defy the odds as he made his 7th All-Star game this year despite being 41 years old. And he's continued to do well in Tampa, albeit in only 5 games, as he does have a pair of home runs for the team. He is a free agent after the season, but he provides a solid bat at designated hitter for Tampa Bay. Now, the other player that they got was right-handed pitcher Calvin Frazier, and Frazier has an ERA north of 6 in Double-A for the Minnesota Tampa Bay teams, affiliates I should say, so there's not too much to see there. Now, Minnesota got a pair of right-handed pitchers in return. The first one we're going to look at is Joe Ryan, and Joe Ryan, he is the 8th prospect right now for Minnesota. He's their 8th ranked prospect. He is in Triple-A, and he has looked good so far. A call-up is definitely possible for this year. He is known for his fastball, which doesn't blow you away, but it's not easy to hit. He has the ability to be a solid starting pitcher 3 or 4 in the majors. Now, the other player that they got, Drew Strotman. Strotman slots in as Minnesota's 15th ranked prospect. He's also in AAA, but he has undergone Tommy John in the past. He's got great command and a healthy mix of pitches, but he's probably a year away from making his debut due to the Tommy John injury in the past. Now, the next trade we have happened on the 23rd. It was between the Mets and the Rays, and saw New York acquire Rich Hill from Tampa Bay in exchange for Tommy Hunter and a prospect. So we'll start with the Mets here, who got left-handed pitcher Rich Hill. Now, this was a little surprising when it was released, just because the Rays, they're still contenders. They had just made a trade, obviously, to get Nelson Cruz. So the fact that they were selling off an asset was a little surprising, but so Hill started off the 2021 season red hot, but he has cooled off recently. Still, he's a well-respected veteran who can help the Mets make a push to the playoffs. He is a free agent after the season. Tampa Bay got relief pitcher Tommy Hunter, who's a righty. And Hunter, he's been good this year, but he's only played in 8 games, and he's been out since May due to a back injury. He is probably not going to play the rest of this year. He was probably more of a salary dump at that point. Then they also got catcher Matt Dyer, who's a prospect. And Dyer, he's a power-hitting catching prospect. He is hitting below the Mendoza this year, and he only has 24 hits at this point, but 7 of those hits are for homers. You never know what will happen with him. So then we had a couple quiet days before we got to the 26th, and we had another one of our Big 5 trades, where San Diego got second baseman outfielder Adam Frazier from Pittsburgh in exchange for 3 prospects. So we will start with San Diego's haul here, and they get the guy who is leading the league in hits, Adam Frazier. Now Frazier, he's been having a career year this season. He slots into a super utility role, possibly being the starting second baseman. We will see how they do it in San Diego, what they're going to do. His plus contact skills should help San Diego as they intend to make a push to the World Series. You can pretty much put Frazier in any outfield position. You can put him in second base. You can put him at third if you wanted to. So he was a good addition for them. You could basically play him everywhere except catcher and probably not first base. Now that versatility is invaluable as a team tends to make a run to the playoffs. Now in return for him, Pittsburgh got a trio of prospects. The first one we'll discuss is shortstop Tucupita Marcano and Marsano. He becomes Pittsburgh's 7th prospect. Now he made his debut earlier in the year and he is a good bat. He has a chance to help out Pittsburgh down the stretch. We'll see though. They also got outfielder Jack Sawinski, and Sawinski is a decent power bat who's currently in AA. Lastly, they also got right-handed pitcher Michel Melanio, and Melanio has great strikeout numbers, but he does have a high ERA. That to me indicates that he's going to be a relief pitcher when he eventually makes it to the big leagues. Now, you'll notice here for Oakland, I did not put a date in the top. That means that this trade occurred on the same day as the trade before it. So, like these couple trades here all occurred on the same day. So Oakland got left-handed pitcher Andrew Chafin from the Cubs in exchange for 2 prospects. So we'll start with, of course, Oakland's haul with Andrew Chafin. And Chafin is a solid lefty. He is in the middle of a career year, and he will provide help for an ailing Oakland bullpen that's been a little less stellar than you'd hope. Now, he may get a couple of save opportunities, but he's more of a setup man. Now, in exchange for him, the Cubs got a pair of prospects. The first one we'll look at is outfielder Greg Diekman. Now, Diekman, he becomes their 20th prospect, and he's on the verge of making his debut as he is batting .300 in AAA. They also got right-handed pitcher Daniel Palencia, and Palencia is playing his first professional season this year, and he has looked decent thus far. And then we had a bit of a surprising trade as the Houston Astros got a pair of pitchers from the Seattle Mariners in exchange for a corner infielder and a pitcher. So we'll start with Houston's hauls. They got Kendall Graveman and Rafael Montero. So Graveman, he's looked great this year as he has an ERA south of 1, which is always nice. He had earned 10 saves in Seattle, and he figures to earn the occasional save in Houston, but he's probably going to be more of a setup man, so can't complain. He definitely will have a high leverage role for the team. Now, Rafael Montero, he's looked horrible recently. He has an abysmal ERA. I think it's something like 11 since June, so yeah. Seattle had designated him for the assignment, and then they ended up trading him to Houston, so maybe Houston will be able to turn him around. You never know. Now, Seattle got a pair of players in return, I should say. The first one was corner infielder, third baseman, first baseman Abraham Toro. Now, Toro was a former top prospect. He was Houston's 3rd last year before he graduated from the system. And he is not your prototypical, or he is your prototypical backup corner infielder. He has good power, but he doesn't have the best average. Right now, he is hot. So Seattle's definitely happy that they got him, but you'll have to wonder if he's really in their long-term future, if they intend to deal him in the offseason, for example. Now, they also got right-handed pitcher Joe Smith, who's a reliever in the majors, and he has not been great this year. He has an ERA north of 7. Seattle may not use him much at all. Now, then we get to July 28th, and we have our first trade on that day, where Seattle got left-handed pitcher Tyler Anderson from Pittsburgh in exchange for a pair of prospects. This was a messy situation. Just because the Phillies had thought they had a deal in place for Anderson, it fell through due to the medical of one of the guys. So, yeah, basically, Anderson, he's looked good in July. He should have a decent role in Seattle. Will he be They're starting pitcher 2, 3, 4, or 5. We'll have to see. Worst case scenario, he will definitely be a good innings eater, so you can't complain about that with a young team like Seattle. Now, in exchange for him, Pittsburgh got a pair of prospects. The first one that we're going to discuss is catcher Carter Binns. And Binns, he actually slots in as the team's 30th prospect. Now, he's looked good offensively this year, and he is currently in Double-A. They also got right-handed pitcher Joaquin Tejada. Tejada has only made 2 appearances in the United States as he just turned professional. So later in that day, we had a few more trades. One of them saw Cincinnati acquire right-handed pitcher Mychal Givens from Colorado in exchange for a pair of prospects. So Givens, he adds another arm to Cincinnati's somewhat disappointing bullpen. Now, it's disappointing in part due to injuries, but that's neither here nor there. He's done decently this year, as he does have an ERA south of 3, and that's with pitching in Colorado. So Colorado got a pair of prospect right-handed pitchers. The first one we'll look at is Case Williams, and Williams is now Colorado's 21st ranked prospect. He's the younger of the two, and he should be eased to the majors, so he still has some time in the minors. Now, they also got Noah Davis, and Davis is their 25th ranked prospect now, so you can't complain about that. He definitely has the potential to be a starting pitcher 5 in the future, but he did miss some valuable developmental time due to Tommy John, and he has struggled with control this year, which is, I believe, his first year back since Tommy John, so jury's out. Then we had Houston acquire another bullpen piece from Miami, getting themselves Yimi Garcia in exchange for a pair of players. Now, Yimi Garcia in Houston, he was the closer for the Marlins, and he figures to work more towards the middle of Houston's bullpen, but he should still get some high-leverage work here or there, just not as much as he was getting in Miami. Now, Miami, in turn, got a pair of prospects. The first one we'll look at is right-handed pitcher Austin Pruitt. Now, Pruitt, he had been DFA'd from the team to make room for the Graveman-Montero trade, and he had only appeared in 2 games this year in the majors. There's nothing too much to say with him. He's actually not a prospect. I shouldn't have said that. The big name for Miami was outfielder Brian De La Cruz. And De La Cruz, he is Miami's 29th prospect now. He was having a decent season in AAA, but he has been called up very recently. He actually made his debut yesterday, July 30th. So, solid. Then we have another big trade, and this was probably the biggest surprise of a trade, as Oakland got outfielder Starling Marte from Miami in exchange for left-handed pitcher Jesus Luzardo. Wow. Now, first we'll discuss Marte. Marte is in the midst of a career year of sorts. Now, despite missing north of a month and a half, Marte has had solid numbers this year. He is stealing, and he currently has a career-high average of .299. He should take on an important role for Oakland down the stretch. In exchange, Miami got left-handed pitcher Jesus Luzardo. Wow. Luzardo started the season as Oakland's number 2 pitcher, but he has looked abysmal this year. He was demoted to the minors, and he continued to struggle down in the minors. Now, Miami is clearly hoping that his struggles can be fixed, as he is a former top prospect. He was actually Oakland's top prospect going into last season, so they're hoping to buy low and turn him around. We'll have to see what happens. It's one of those rare one-for-one trades in baseball. This will be one that we'll be able to look at in a few years, especially since Marte is a rental. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens with this trade. Next, we have the Milwaukee Brewers getting Eduardo Escobar, the infielder from Arizona, in exchange for a pair of prospects. So, Eduardo Escobar, he's having a strong season this year, and he got himself in his first All-Star game, so that's always nice. Now, he will provide some pop to Milwaukee's infield, but he probably won't be an everyday player because they have so many different players there that they can have as starters. So, he's a good pickup, though, for a team that's contending for the playoffs. Now, Arizona got a pair of prospects. The first one we'll look at is utility man Cooper Hummel. Now, Hummel himself, he is a super utility man. He can play in the outfield, he can play first base, and he can even catch. He should get called up soon, especially with Arizona not playing for much anymore this year. Lastly, they also have infielder Alberto Ciprian. And Ciprian, he's young, he has a lot of potential. As of now, he is not a top 30 prospect, but if he continues to dominate the rookie leagues like he's doing right now, that will not continue. He will get himself up in the top parts of the prospect pool for Arizona. Next, we are now on July 29th, and the first trade we're going to look at was between the White Sox and the Cleveland MLB team, and this saw Chicago acquire second baseman Cesar Hernandez in exchange for a prospect. So, Cesar, he's in the middle of a career year in the power department at least. He has already hit a career high in homers with 18, but he has sacrificed his average to do that, so he's kind of gone into the more 2020, 2021 role than the 2010 role that we saw him at before, where he would hit for contact but not power. Still, Chicago, they had a need at second base, and they finally got one, and he is under control through next year, so that's always nice. In exchange for him, Cleveland got left-handed pitcher Connor Pilkington. In Pilkington, he has some solid numbers in Double-A, but he is not a top 30 prospect yet. Then we had another quick trade here that saw Toronto acquire left-handed pitcher Brad Hand in exchange for a prospect from Washington. Now, Brad Hand, he has been a little streaky this year. He's been hot and then he's been cold. He's a typical reliever. Toronto's bullpen has been devastated by injuries this year, though. So he still figures to get his fair share of save opportunities. But he may stick as a setup man for the time being. He's made one appearance so far for Toronto, and it was in a setup role. That was last night, so we'll have to see what happens with him. Now, he is a free agent after the season. Now, Washington, in turn, got catcher Riley Adams, who is a prospect, and he made his debut earlier this season, but he did struggle. He's currently their 13th ranked prospect right now, but given his size, he's 6'4" and I think 245, he will probably be moved to first base or maybe third base in the future. Then we have another big trade as the New York Yankees got Joey Gallo from the Texas Rangers. So we will start off with the Yankees, and the Yankees also got Joely Rodriguez. This is probably the biggest trade that we had. I would say the Marte one might be bigger, but this is probably the biggest trade that we had. So Joey Gallo, he grew up a Yankees fan, and he now gets to join the Bronx Bombers. He is under contract through the end of the 2022 season, so it makes sense that they gave up a lot together. And they definitely gave up a lot. He figures to see his power numbers go up, and he is one of 3 lefties in the lineup at this point, so the Yankees definitely needed lefties. As you know, lefties can typically hit well in New York. Rodriguez, in turn, the left-handed pitcher, Joely Rodriguez, he's going to continue a relief role, I should say. He's a good player in the bullpen. He's a welcome lefty. They don't have a lot of southpaws coming out of their bullpen. Now, Texas, in turn, got 4 prospects. The first one we'll look at is second baseman Ezekiel Duran. And Duran, he is now Texas's 8th prospect. He had a stellar year in high A this year, or he has had one, and he projects to be a player with 20 home run, 20 steal potential. Now, they also got shortstop Josh Smith. Smith is Texas's 7th prospect, and he's had great contact skills, and he should continue to grow. He's done great this year, and he has showed great power, which is not something that the Yankees were expecting when they signed him. They also got utility man Trevor Hauver, and Hauver, he is now the 18th prospect for the team. He's looked great. He is definitely doing good within the power department as well. He is currently in high A, and he has a chance, after dominating last year, or after dominating the start of the season, I should say, in low A, sorry about that. Lastly, they also got right-handed pitcher Glenn Otto. And Otto, he is Texas's 25th prospect. Injuries have slowed down his development, but he still has a chance to make his debut this season. If not, he is very close to making his debut. He is known for his dirty curveball. Next, we have the Chicago teams making a trade, and we have one to discuss later in the day, too. This was a swap of pitchers, so the White Sox got right-handed pitcher Ryan Tepera. And Tepera, he will continue to serve as a solid setup man in Chicago, just on the other side of the city. The Cubs, in turn, got left-handed pitching prospect Bailey Horn, and he is not a top 30 prospect for their team, but he was one for the White Sox. He struggled this year, and he is currently in high A. So next, we have the Seattle Mariners making a trade to acquire some bullpen help, as they would get right-handed pitcher Diego Castillo from Tampa Bay in exchange for a pair of prospects. So Diego Castillo, he figures to serve as either a closer or a setup man for Seattle. He looks to be the replacement for Graveman. We'll have to see what happens, though. He's had a solid year so far in Tampa Bay, and he had actually gotten the role of Tampa Bay's closer before he suffered an injury earlier in the year, and then Tampa Bay went back to being a closer by committee. Now, in exchange for him, Tampa Bay got a pair of players. The first one we'll look at is in the majors, right-handed pitcher JT Chargos. And Chargos, he's a decent reliever. He will help out the team. He's no Diego Castillo, but he's still a decent reliever. They also got third baseman Austin Shenton, and Shenton is now Tampa Bay's 22nd ranked prospect. He is a strong hit tool, but his defense is far from ideal. He's a medium ceiling, high floor player that should, worst case, be a bench player when he eventually gets to the majors. Now, we have 3 more trades to look at. The first one's really minor here. The Dodgers got left-handed pitcher Denny Duffy. And Duffy, he's still dealing with an injury. He's probably going to be out until the end of August, so they don't expect to get much out of him, at least now. They're looking forward towards, October. They want to have a guy to help them in the playoffs. Now, Kansas City in exchange got a player to be named later. Probably has to do with how many games Duffy plays and how the team does. So we'll see who they get. Then we have our 5th and final big trade, as the Yankees got first baseman Anthony Rizzo from the Cubs in exchange for a pair of prospects. Now, Rizzo provides another left-handed bat to the Yankees lineup. He will definitely benefit from playing in New York. He will slot into a starting first base role at least until Luke Vogt comes back. He is a pending free agent, but he has the experience to help guide the Yankees on a run. Plus, they stole him from Boston. That's always a plus if you're the Yankees. Now, Chicago got a pair of prospects in exchange. The first one we'll look at is right-handed pitcher Alexander Vecchio. And Vecchio, he is now the 8th prospect in Chicago's system. He is a strong fastball and a strong changeup. He will probably end up getting converted into a reliever role in the near future, where his stuff projects better. Now, they also got outfielder Kevin Alcantara, sorry about that, and he is now the team's 11th prospect. He is a high-risk, high-reward prospect. Now, he looks to be a plus defender in center field where he has the speed, but can he develop power? That is the real question. And the fact that, like I said, he's a pending free agent and they got 2 top 15 prospects for him, at least in their system, that's pretty good. Lastly, we have the Boston Red Sox, who kind of tried to counter Yankees. The Yankees getting Gallo and Rizzo. They would get outfielder Kyle Schwarber from the Nationals. Now, Kyle Schwarber, he was on a tear before hurting his hamstring at the end of June. He's been out for all of July, and he is expected to be back at least relatively soon. He should get regular playing time, including some time at DH. In exchange for him, Washington gets a right-handed pitcher, Aldo Ramirez, and Ramirez is now Washington's 11th ranked prospect. He has a high floor and is advanced for his young age. He should make the team soon, probably as a call-up near the end of the 2022 season, if I had to guess. But this is part 1 of the 2021 MLB trade deadline recap. So this is definitely going to be longer than part 2. But like I said, I wanted to include all these deals. There's going to be some deals pinned in the comments below that just couldn't make the cut here. Some of them are bigger, but most of them are just minor players getting traded for relative no-name prospects. Hope you guys enjoyed this trade video. Have a good rest of your day.